If you're any kind of rail fan, you really owe it to yourself to go down and check out the Parade of Steam down at Cass, West Virginia. It's a several-day event, but the parade only happens on Saturday. They have a lot of cool things, to include a cakewalk. It costs 25 cents a ticket, or they have a deal where it's 4 for $1. What? I guess first we kind of need to get there, so we jump in the car and head on down the road. Not a bad drive. It's not exactly next door. However, a pro tip, if you want to experience West Virginia and all of its hilly, mountainous, zigzaggy, twisty roads, then take the road circled. We opted not for the full West Virginia experience. However, on the way down, way off in the distance, we were pretty sure we saw a tornado. Did we? Not really sure. Well, after some off and on rain on the way down, we finally made it to Cass. Hey, they got a gift shop too? Let's go. Well, of course, we did hit the gift shop. We looked around a little bit at Cass, and then it was time to head up the, yes, twisty, turny, zigzaggy road up to Snowshoe, the home of our hotel. The hotel was very nice, by the way. My room was pretty cool. My traveling companion's room seemed to be a lot bigger and even had a fireplace, but yeah, we're not going to go there. Well, I'm not going to go there. I was banned. But at least the water was safe to drink, so that was pretty cool. All right, it's the next morning, and there's fog everywhere. As we drive down through the clouds to Cass again, we wanted to get there early to get a good camera position, which I think we did. Yeah, we rode in the lot about 7:15 in the morning. The parade starts at 10:30, so we got time to kill. I was slow to set up my gear because the weatherman sort of threatened rain off and on, so we had all kinds of rain gear. Fortunately for us, it did not rain at all, and it turned out to be a really great day. So as I hold down the fort, my traveling companions go to breakfast and then mosey around and see what all the vendors have for sale. Some of the train stuff was actually pretty cool. All right, with them back, it's now my turn to go to breakfast, so I go to breakfast. It was actually a pretty good buffet across the bridge, by the way. So I walk around a little bit and check stuff out also. Every great once in a while, you bump into famous people, as Miss Ripley 4th of July finds out. We got here about 7:15. It's now just before 10 o'clock in the morning, and very soon the locomotives are going to back into position to start the parade. In case you're wondering, the rail fans circled in red got there at 5 in the morning to get that position. So if you want that position, you better get there maybe about 4. In case you're wondering, this is my setup. The cameras can do both videos and still, so I vary depending on the run-by. Hopefully I captured it well, and you're going to enjoy what you see. Before you ask, Shay number 7 will not make an appearance today, well, other than right now. Seems he slept in. In case you don't know, in the days of steam, all engineers were encouraged to operate with a clear stack. A clear stack means just the proper amount of fuel and air. Too much fuel equals black smoke. A white stack equals too much air. Lucky for us, the engineers are here for the video people and picture takers, so you may see just a little bit of black smoke coming out of the stacks. All right, the first video is going to show a couple shays backing up. I'll then slow the video down a little bit so you can watch the steam pistons and the gears moving. It's kind of cool. I dig it. Oh, here they come now as they try to sneak past us. Before we get started, might as well introduce you to some of the characters you'll see. Sadly, the climax here you will not see. Anyway, this is the Climax locomotive built by the Climax Manufacturing Company of Corey, Pennsylvania. They were built from 1884 to 1928. There's still about 20 of them left. The Climax has two parallel cylinders, one on each side of the boiler, connected to a crankshaft, is geared to the drive shaft running down the center of the locomotive, so it's sort of balanced. This picture serves two purposes. One, you get a pretty good look of the piston and drive shaft gear, plus it'll sort of tell you why we're not going to see the Climax today at the parade. All right, the first locomotive that you are going to see is the Heisler, built by the Heisler Locomotive Works of Erie, Pennsylvania, from 1892 to 1941. The Heisler's drive machinery is centered on the frame, but unlike the Shay and Climax, the drive shaft is geared only to the inner axle of each truck. The outer axle is coupled by wheel cranks and side rods, as you can see. With the drive shafts in the center, it gives it greater flexibility. All right, here's a little bit of trivia on this particular locomotive. Heisler number 6 started its life at the Meadow River Lumber Company, number 6 from Canadian National. It was built in 1929 by the Heisler Locomotive Works, like we talked about. It then went over to the Bostonia Coal and Clay Products in New Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Because of its larger wheels, it goes faster than Shay's. Interestingly, it's a saturated steam engine using a 1924 boiler, while the company was out shopping for superheated West Coast specials. So please don't repeat this to the locomotive. However, in 1942, the master mechanic wrote in his diary, "We are working on the Heisler engine. She's a joke." Yeah. Seems it had a lot of trouble with steep grades, and they had difficulty finding gear oil that worked on the Heisler. All right, here comes the Heisler. All the rest of the locomotives are Shays, built by the Lima Locomotive Works in Lima, Ohio, or some people call it Lima, like the lima bean, but it's Lima. Anyway, built them from 1880 to 1945. Cass has examples, working examples I might add, of the 70, 80, 90, and 150-ton models. The Shay's vertical cylinders and drive shaft are on the right side of the locomotive and transmit power through gears on the wheels. In order to balance the drive machinery out, the boiler is offset on the left of the frame. Pro tip, if you video the Shays from the left side of the locomotive, you're going to be sorely disappointed because you won't see the cylinders in action. Well, let's get a little backstory on Shay number 6, or Big 6 as it's sometimes called, from Western Maryland Railway. Built in 1945, it was the last and second largest Shay ever to be shopped out by Lima. It spent a good deal of its life working Western Maryland. It went a couple other places. It did spend 26 years at the B&O Museum at the Montclair Roundhouse. The placard in the B&O Museum said, "Iron Mule." Shay was purpose-built to haul logs out of steep mountains. Thus, it's got no problems at all climbing the hills at Cass. However, it does seem to have issues on the flat unless, of course, it blows the whistle. Next up is Shay number 5. Believe it or not, it was built in 1905 for the Cass-based railroad, West Virginia Spruce Lumber Company. It's the oldest and longest operating Shay at Cass. In 1942, it was involved in a head-on collision with a 280. The winter of 1958 and 1959 was not kind to number 5. It's stored in the upright corner of the shop. Number 5 sat in one spot so long that the rails sagged under the weight of number 5. But it's running today, so let's see it. Well, next in line we have good old Shay number 2. It was constructed in 1928 for the Mayo Lumber Company, which would be number 4. It was built as a wood burner. However, the purchaser wasn't really sure about superheated wood burner, so he wanted it configured to oil. During its life, it bounced around several places in British Columbia and Canada. The locomotive became one of North America's last regularly operated commercial use Shays. When Cass acquired this locomotive, it was burning good old number 4 diesel fuel, but Cass will have none of that as they got lots of coal, so it was converted to coal. So good old number 2 becomes the only Shay ever to be equipped at various times to burn wood, oil, and coal. Coal is a good choice because it makes cool smoke. Built in 1922 for the Mower Lumber Company number 4, I think Cass number 4 has probably the most interesting history going. Anyway, it was built for the Birch Valley Lumber Company. It bounced around a little bit, changed numbers a few times. In 1941, it had a notable wreck. It hit a broken rail, tumbled down the hill, and inflicted 4 scalding fatalities. In addition to the deaths of the engineer, fireman, and brakeman, about a mile before the crash, the owner of the Tioga Lumber Company climbed on board. He was the 4th victim. Well, after the crash, the engine got fixed up, went back into service, worked a good long time. Well, in 1963, it broke an axle while working for the C&O Railroad in Kentucky. Anyway, the shop furnished a replacement, and check this out. The replacement was an axle from a GM EMD GP30 diesel-electric locomotive. Yep, how crazy is that? All right, last 2 bits of trivia for good old number 4. Pre-season 1964, it was the first to receive standard gold Cass Scenic Railroad Roman lettering and striping. Also, they replaced the 5 remaining axles with, GP30 axles. Who knew? All right, here comes the GP30 now. Cass number 4. Hey, check it out. The engineer forgot to put his lunch pail in the cab. See it on the tender there? All right, with the introductions out of the way, the locomotives are going to back up on 2 separate tracks and get ready for the first link up. I zoomed in a little bit so you can check out all the working gear. In case you're wondering, the video camera doesn't pan because I'm too busy taking still shots on this run-by. Well, this is possibly my favorite shot of the day, but just introducing the run-by, 2 locomotives on the far track and then the rest on the near track. I told myself I wasn't going to video them returning, but yeah, here it is anyway. Next up, all the locos are linked up together, and one by one they'll blow their whistle just for me. Well, actually now just for us. Nice. Next is the very same run-by, just shot with a different camera. Slip them wheels. Well, sadly, we cut off number 4's whistle, but he was blowing it way out of range, so, oh well. Oh, hold on a second, I'm getting the text. Wait a minute. It's asking me what happened to the B&O diesel engine. Well, it was a distraction, plus this is steam day, not diesel day. But if you really need to know, there it is. All right, with that out of the way, let's make the diesel disappear and get on with this video. Well, a lot of us first-timers figured that was the grand finale, didn't really know what they could do to top that, but it was not the grand finale. Well, I just had an inspiration. Before I show the grand finale, I thought it might be interesting to take a look back at the original versions of the 3 locomotives we've talked about. Pictured right now is the Shay. You can see how the boiler's offset to the left to make room for the gear on the right. As you look at the first Shay, Mr. Shay was actually a logger who needed a locomotive to pull his logs out, so he sort of invented it himself. So here's a look at a little bit more modern Shay, and then the real modern Shay. Well, as we gave honorable mention to the Climax, we might as well talk about it real quick. Mr. Scott, also a logger, invented the Climax locomotive. He just came up with a different idea, put the boiler on one end, water jug on the other for traction, and there you have it. Little different story on the Heisler. He was in manufacturing, filling an order to come up with, a logging locomotive. So in addition to what you're seeing, he also invented sanders, so it would sand the wheels going either frontward or backward, and the finished product is, voila, almost what you see today. Well, sort of. There is one thing that they all have in common that is different from the locomotives of today. And yes, that is, back then they had to use black and white parts. Now they can use color parts. Speaking of color parts, the locos are all lined up for the grand finale. I had my video camera stationary on a tripod to capture the last run-by, but because there was so much whistles, rather than just show the B&O diesel just sitting there minding its own business, I'll dig in my archives and show a couple still pictures so we can hear all the whistles and see the video. The grand finale, you ask, what is that going to be? The same locomotives with all the whistles blowing at the same time. Remember, a 2-whistle blast is the signal for forward. All right, here we go. Final run by. I'm taking still pictures while my video camera does its thing.
There it is.
I knew I had this, I didn't know where it went.
Sorry. Is that a lens wipe?
Yeah, it's dirty, I'll wash it.
Okay. Wow. That was worth it right there.
All right, a little sound effects from the archives and hopefully a little shave and a haircut at the end to take us out of here. All right, Logan said we had a good day, so we had a good day. All right.